I hit the start button before I felt emotionally prepared. This is very exciting. Okay. Hello, and welcome to this new version of the Wonder Botanica newsletter. We'll see how this goes. And if you could let me know that you're here, say hi or something. The reason for that being, sorry, I'm looking at my computer so I can actually see when people are saying things. The reason for that being that my view right now is my own face on my phone, which means that I'm talking to myself, which, while not uncommon, hey Tracy, not uncommon, still feels very odd. Hi Julie, you're here. Hi Stacy. All of a sudden, not talking to myself. Oh, the dog gets very excited when I say hello to people. Yeah, so much easier when I can actually see that there are people here. Not talking to self anymore. Hi Lana. Okay. I've promised, for everyone's sake, to try and keep this 30 to 45 minutes. Hi, Victoria. Tracy, it's because it's like you came to my party. It's very exciting. I'm even wearing a party dress. So. Hi, Katie. Also, it's like, is it anxiety or excitement? I don't know. Okay. So the reason, oh, and can you all hear me okay, by the way? I'm assuming yes. Tracy, I am so happy that you came to my party. Hi, Holly. I have actually written myself notes just in case I lose my train of thought. We'll see if I use them, but just in case. Right. The reason I wanted to talk about this is that it's like a plague. The guilt and fear of being lazy, and it's something that I think so many of us learn really early. Like, some of my earliest memories are of like waking up. Hey Ames! Cooking over the tripod, too excited. Tone it down. Yeah, some of my earliest memories of waking up 7 a.m., no, maybe 7:30, and hearing, "You're missing half the day, you don't want to be lazy, do you?" And I feel like this voice of like, you don't want to be lazy to you, sticks in our heads to the point where it affects our behavior and sort of forces us into acting in ways that are not in alignment with our deepest selves. By that, I simply mean, say that your body and your being is like, I really want to have my tea in bed this morning. But then your brain is like, but you don't want to be lazy, do you? Then all of a sudden, the thing that you really want to do, which is have tea in bed, which I started doing last week, it's amazing. The thing that you want to do is either something that you are like forced to steal with either rebellion or guilt, which means that the voice of you don't want to be lazy, do you, is still running the show. If it's like, I'm pushing back against this, or I'm going to do it anyway, but still like feel guilt over it, that means that this voice is still there. And, or what we do is be like, you don't want to be lazy, do you? You're right. I'll do that. I'll have tea in bed when I'm dead. So it, yeah, whether it is driving us to do more than our bodies and our deeper selves are either capable of or want to do, which is 100% valid, or whether we're pushing back against it or doing it anyway, but feeling shame, there's still this voice of laziness is still in charge. So I want to have a reframe. And my goal for today's live newsletter, I don't know what we're going to call this. I haven't thought that far ahead yet. The goal for me is to get you, me, and all of us to this emotional place where we either feel ready to completely do away with the word lazy in our personal lexicons, or to reclaim it as actually an amazing thing. So that's my goal. Caitlin, I literally just had to tamp down the impulse to get up and fold laundry while listening to this, despite being very tired and needing a rest right now. Good timing. Oh my God, I love you guys. Hi, Christy. Live Wonder Chat? Wonder Live. Like this. Okay. It's winter. Even if it's not winter where you are. Go with this with me for a minute. Picture it. It's late winter. There's a tree outside your house. The weather's starting to warm up. There are no leaves on this tree. You're desperate for winter to be over. It is like, it has gone on and on and on. And you're like, I just want to be lying in the sun. I just want some leaves on the trees. I want my daffodils to come up. And this tree has no leaves on it. It's sunny. It's March. What's the tree doing? There's no leaves. At any point, would you march out there, walk up to this tree and be like, you're lazy? Would you? It's a serious question. Would you call a tree lazy for not having leaves in March? They're supposed to be budding out. It's getting late. Never ever. Kim, I might now. Well, you're welcome for the idea. I'll go and do that to my daffodils later today. For the most part, I'm guessing that it wouldn't occur to us to call a tree lazy. Hi, Orna! Yay, you made it! I've got the happy wiggles. I learned the happy wiggles, by the way, as a complete aside from a 2-year-old who was my neighbor, and every time he would see something that made him happy, he did wiggles. And I was like, that's a really good idea. I'm gonna, yeah. And it just happens automatically. I think all of us actually automatically would have happy wiggles if we knew how. So, top tip. If any of you have aims, just as you got told once that no trees are ugly, it's so true. I love that. So true. You're never going to be like, man, tree, You're really letting yourself go. So what I would like is, if any of you have a plant in your vicinity, or if you can see one out the window, I can do it here for you as well with this Christmas cactus that is whatever the opposite of lazy is, because it is not Christmas. You're such a good plant for not being lazy. Find a plant near you. This is really fun. And look at this plant. Tell it it's lazy. Christmas cactus, thou art lazy. Lazy. I'll try it with Henry, the fig tree here. Henry, you're lazy. If you don't have a plant, you can just see, you can watch this as well and probably get the same effect. Now, as you tell this plant that it's lazy, or as I tell the plant that it's lazy, feel the plant. Feel its reaction. Okay, the fact that you can't do it is just like making my heart feel a million times bigger. That's just wonderful. I'll hug this plant as well after saying you're lazy. It doesn't feel good to do this, right? It doesn't feel good to do this. Like, you can't bring yourself to do it. And when you do it, how does it feel in your body? Does it feel tight? Gold star for Courtney. But stick with me here. Even if you're just watching me say it to this plant, you're lazy. How does it feel in your body? Lazy. Where do you feel it in your body? Gross. Tight, shut down. Does it feel like this face? Because this is how my body feels when I say it, sort of like, crumpling in my heart, a cringe in my heart, weeping menstrual cramps, totally tight and shut down, gross. Now I'm going to do it once more. Belly sad. Oh, belly sad is such a good phrase. Sad, counter to all the things I value in life. Totally. Now, Tracy, I love you. So now I want to tell you what I see in this plant's energy when I say you're lazy to the plant. You're lazy. Do you know what I see? If plants could laugh or giggle or just not register, that's the reaction I feel from the plant when I say that. Like, plants can interpret, from what I read or gather or have been told, so many more wavelengths of energy out there in the world than our human perception can, and yet two simple words in the English language do not register. It's like, I might as well be going, it's like It's like if somebody walked up to me and started speaking gibberish, and I'd be like, do you need a sandwich? Do you need a cup of tea? Which brings me to think that whatever is going on in this word is not something that happens in the natural world. Because if it was, are we friends? Let me tidy it up before this plant was not camera ready. If it was something that happened in the natural world, then they would hear it. They would understand it. They would be like, you're right. Here's a leaf. Julie, yes, the plant doesn't hear me when I say this. Unusual, because plants often hear me. Okay, thank you very much for coming and being my assistant. That's part one. Part two. Let's talk about all of the things that happen under the surface when things are not happening on the surface. Courtney, how astute. Thank you. Hi, Trisha. More wiggles. Okay. Some of us are action people. In the world of temperaments, we would call this choleric. And choleric people, keep in mind, this isn't a temperaments class, but like, this is a very, very, very multifaceted and nuanced thing, and like, nobody is just one thing. We have tendencies in different areas, and but the drive towards action, goals, is by nature very fiery and choleric. In a world where we value goals and action above all else, this means that we are really only seeing choleric behaviors as valuable. What about air? Sanguine behaviors, fun, light, play, revelry. What about earth? Melancholic behaviors, being, deep, deep understanding. What about phlegmatic behaviors? Water, connection, emoting. Is emotional labor not also labor? If you spend your time at home looking after your kids, cooking, cleaning, homeschooling, is that not also labor? Masses of it. All of these things are doings. They're just doings in different ways. Under the surface, in winter, what's happening out there? Oh, you can't see out my window. There's a window. What's a plant doing in winter? Is it checking out of the life cycle completely? Is it like, peace out, man, see you in April or whenever, because I'm lazy? It's resting. It's sending all of its energy into its roots, into its root systems. The flow of energy in a tree. It moves up and out in the spring and summer and then turns back in and down into the roots. Just because you can't see what's happening under there doesn't mean that there's not masses of things going on. It could very well be blossoming underground for all we know. I mean, it's not, but... all of these different phases, I connect them to the temperaments. And each one of these temperaments and elements has a different pace and a different way of expressing itself. So, like, if you think that the air comes first, it's quick, changeable. Spring. And then the full doing comes second, that like fiery explosion of blossoms. Christy, it is sort of blossoming underground. Roots are made and expanded during winter. Ah, it's blossoming underground. That makes me so happy. There's an oak tree right there, and just like very pleased with it right now. Yeah, choleric fire, summer. Autumn, it starts coming back in, the leaves fall off. Slow sinking water. And then earth, winter. Looks like nothing is happening on the surface. There's so much going on under the surface. Every melancholic person I know is like, there's so much going on in here. They're quiet. If you don't know them very well, you're going to be like, well, they're very quiet. If you know them very well, you're like, they're not melancholic, they're too chatty. Things that are doing that don't look like doing. Emotional processing. Psychic work. Being sad. Being an emotional support for someone. Being a caretaker. I should have written a list because it's hard to think of these off the top of my head. Napping. Daydreaming. Thanks, Caitlin. This is really helpful. Keep them coming. Daydreaming is so important. It's doing. Hanging out with a place. The process of writing for me is not torturous. I actually really enjoy it, but there's always this place where I've got everything out on the page. Let me backtrack. That's not the place I'm talking about. I'll go through like a ton of different books and resources in order to compile the information that I want to communicate in writing. And often after like reading all these different things, and there'll be like completely different things. So for example, like for the Wonder Sessions, it was like systems theory, biology, neuroscience. What else is on the bookshelf? epigenetics, polyvagal theory, like all of these different things that don't necessarily look like they go together on the surface, except whatever it is I'm reaching for, I know that they go together. So I read them all, and I'll take notes on the parts that feel relevant. And then still the hardest part for me is the waiting for it to come together, waiting for the connections to happen. Making connections is hard work. But it would be very easy to be like, well, you're not doing anything right now. Making connections is doing. So I would love, while you're here, to know about what your doings are that aren't doings. What's necessary for you that doesn't feel productive? Building neurons. Laying in the sun, so necessary. Julie, recovering from being around people. Totally. Slow morning starts. Pottering. Figuring out how to do new stuff. Staring out the window. Meditating, deep breathing, healing from dental work. Oh. Last time I booked a dental appointment and I was like there at the desk and we're trying to make a date, and I was like, oh, I can't do that. I've got something on the next day. And she was like, what? And I was like, well, I need a 2-day window afterwards so that I can lie in bed and watch Pride and Prejudice and do nothing. And she was like, that's clever. And I was like, thanks. And what we often do with these things is when we explain them to other people, if we explain them to other people, because there's often this feeling of shame that comes with it, right? It's like, I can't do that. I'm sorry. I need to be recovering from something. Or sometimes we'll even use our own, we'll try to make people understand how important this is for us with our own emotions. So it's like, no, you don't understand. I really need this. You need to understand how I need this so you don't think I'm lazy for spending the day in bed. Cindy, not having a schedule, so important. These are needs. They're important aspects of and expressions of your being. As innate to you as the tree leafing out when it wants to. Not waking up to an alarm, staying up too late so I can have enough alone time after my kids are asleep. Christy, we need to believe in our needs and not feel obligated to explain them. I started taking Sundays, which is like my favorite day of the week, because I only do exactly what I want on a Sunday, and it's like a no devices day, unless I really want to be on it, but that's rarely. And a no people day, because people are knackering for me. And it has taken such a long time when people are like, oh, can you do this on Sunday? For me to be like, no, Sundays are not available. Instead of being like, well, I just started doing this thing. So normally I would, but I can't. Instead, now I'm like, how's Saturday? How's Monday? Sunday is off the table completely. Yeah, we use our... Wait, hang on, I want to figure out how to say this right. We know that these things are needs for us, and yet we become afraid of other people's judgment, and so we find ways to justify them that make it sound like that make it easier for people to accept our behavior, or make it easier for us to accept our behavior. So for example, if I don't rest today, then I will get sick. Totally valid, most likely true. However, what's underneath that is, I want to rest. And you feel the difference between the two. I would love to come to your party, but I would rather be staring out the window. So I'm not going to come to your party. As opposed to, I really want to come to your party, but I have to do this thing. It's so important for my process. Feel the difference? You don't have to say that you would rather be staring out the window. I have found that out the hard way. It upsets people. Caitlin, one is desperate, one is accepting. Yes. And what's underneath this, I think, is that we're desperate to accept ourselves as we are. And looking to other people to sort of reflect that back to us. Do plants need to seek approval? That's part 2. Ames, I was going to say staring at colours, then I remembered Christopher Headley saying when they lived in Lanx, none, his wife would seek out and stare at red post boxes to get some hit of other than country colours. She loved the city. I love that. Christy, I have plans is perfectly acceptable. They don't need to know that my plans are to nap or lay in the sun. So true. Oops, don't fall over. Part 3. The definition of lazy, actually, hang on, I pulled it up. Laziness, also known as indolence, is disinclination to activity or exertion despite having the ability to act or exert oneself. Being able to, but not. Is that a bad thing? It's like, can I have $10, please? I see it in your bank account. If you have it, then why aren't you giving it to me? I don't think that having the energy to and not is a bad thing. Because the only time we use this usually is when it is in reference to something we don't want to do or something we don't have the capacity to do. So there's a difference here, right? If you actually don't have the capacity to do it, but you really want to, that's not lazy. That's having an empty gas tank and is completely different. If you have the energy and don't want to, because you want to be doing something else, be it climbing a mountain or lying in the sun like a cat or cooking dinner, it doesn't matter what it is, then is that a bad thing? I don't want to is enough. I don't want to do this thing that you want me to do, that you're now trying to guilt me into doing. I would love if we as a society could learn to be grown up enough to not try and manipulate other people into doing things they don't want to do for us because we can't hear no. When my little sister was 3, when I wanted to, I'm really working on not swearing, when I really wanted to mess with her, I would just look at her and go, no. And she'd start crying. It was really funny. I mean, not for her or my parents, but funny for me. But she was 3. Hearing no was really upsetting to her at age 3. How many people are still operating at 3-year-old response to no? Well, you don't want to be lazy, do you? Or not, yes, you're a Slytherin. Hi. Not wanting to is valid. Lazy is a word that has been turned into a moral judgment. How dare you not do something just because you don't want to? You must be failing in some way. Or no, big hugs from Gryffindor. Big hugs from Slytherin. But I just stuck a note on your back. And think about this in terms of like, all right, you're probably going to hear a lot of like weightlifting analogies from me and things like that. But when you start lifting weights, this isn't how I lift weights, just to clarify. Your muscles develop and build so much faster than your tendons and ligaments. This is a known thing, which is why it actually takes a long time to build strength. Not because your muscles can't do it, but because it takes your tendons and ligaments a long time to catch up with what your muscles are doing. So another aspect of this is also like, can you, talking to the muscle now, or talking to like the limb that wants to do something that takes a lot of strength, can you? Probably, like if the muscle's there, you could probably do it. Can you, with your whole being? if your tendons and ligaments have not caught up yet, I know someone who developed the muscular strength to do a muscle up. That's when you go up and then up. I can't do it, so it's like, it's a whatever thing to me. Developed the muscle strength to do a muscle up, and then ended up having, like, couldn't move their arms for a month because they blew out their tendons trying to do something they hadn't developed strength for. So another aspect of this is, it might look like you do have the capacity or the strength or the energy. But what about the bigger picture? What about the whole self? We often look at our surface energy levels as the determiner for whether we have capacity for something or not, but when we start to pay attention to our deeper energy levels, the things that are important to us, how long it takes for us to get back to baseline or to emotional clarity. For any of you out there who have a lot of water in your being around people can feel like you're a glass of water that just got like dirt dumped in it. How long does it take for that to settle afterwards? For me, it's a few days. I've got the energy, but not the whole self. The whole self doesn't have it. That's part 3. Part 4. I'm so glad I wrote notes. I wouldn't have remembered all of this. Go back to your plant. Hello, baby. And I'm using the plant as an example because it's like, this doesn't register. Call your plant lazy again, if you can. If not, just watch me do it. Beautiful Christmas cactus. Thou art lazy. When I say that, am I actually saying you have the energy to, but are not? Is that what's underneath the energy of lazy? Because feel the difference here. If I say, okay, brace yourself because I'm about to say it to the camera. You're lazy. That feelings, right? You want to, but you're not. Neutral statement. Or in a wiggly dance and ha ha ha. Kim, it's our understanding of lazy that has to change. Because when we use the word lazy, we're not saying you want to but you're not, because that is a neutral statement. It's a statement that you can say yes or no to, and there's no emotional thing about it. What you're actually saying, Cindy, the lazy red oak I planted 18 years ago has grown 4 stories in that time with hardly anyone noticing. I love that. What we're actually saying is, you're not enough. That's why it feels so shite. Crap. What word is not swearing? Terrible. There we go. Yeah. It feels terrible because you're saying you're not enough. You're not doing enough. You're not enough. But once again, look at this. Christmas cactus, you're not enough. I can't even say it. It feels shite. Terrible. It's saying you're failing in some way as a being. Poopy. Defeating. Good words. So yeah, take a minute. Feel the two. Lazy versus you want to but you're not. Thank you, Jim. It is a very nice pot. I don't remember where I got it. I may have nicked it from a friend. There's that Slytherin again. It gets deeper. Though I'm saving the rest of, or the train that the next thought is going for another class. Or another newsletter, I should say. Newsletter? News video? Whatever. Wonder Live. If you say to a plant, you want to, but you're not, there's a disconnect there. Because there is actually nothing in between this plant's want and its expression. If a plant wants to grow towards the light, it is already growing towards the light. In the natural world, want is an expression of self. Caitlin, is it you want to but you're not, or you're able to but you're not? Probably the latter. You're able to but you're not. You're able to but you don't want to. You're able to but you're not. In that case, I'll save this thought for the next newsletter. Victoria, the plant does what it has nourishment and environment for naturally. Nothing more, nothing less. The reason that lazy doesn't register for the Christmas cactus or for the tree is that there is no concept of not being enough. It does not make sense. It is a language that does not exist in the world outside humanity. In the same way as it wouldn't occur to a plant to not be enough in itself, it wouldn't occur to a plant to look to other plants for approval. Am I blooming right? Or is it time? Am I tall enough? Oh, I'm only a wee Christmas cactus, but I wish I was an oak tree. If only I were a nettle plant. So here's the other thing. Take your plant again and say, sorry, this is making me laugh. It's my Hamlet moment. Say to your plant, you are enough just as you are. We think it's going to feel very good to the plant or to us. It bounces off in the same way as you are not enough bounces off. It doesn't need to be told. It's a fundamental aspect of its being. It is, and therefore it is enough. Or when plants do communicate about blooming time and defensive secretions, yes. But I don't think they do it with like, am I doing it right? You are not enough. You are enough. Bounces off in the same way. Neither makes sense because being makes sense. Being enough is being. Which brings me to my final point. When I look at a plant's energy, and the reason that these things bounce off it and don't register, it's because it's so full of its own energy. It is just completely, entirely itself. It's not ahead of itself in time, wondering about what it's going to do tomorrow. It's not thinking about the past. It's not worrying that it's going to steal light from its neighboring plant. It's not pissed off that some human came along and stepped on one of its leaves. It just is. It is fully inhabiting its own energy. Entirely. And that's why these things bounce off. And we too can do this. I have learned more about enoughness just from observing plants being their entire selves, or watching a wee animal or a big animal be its entire self, than from anywhere else. It's something that we get to claim and step into. Can't come from outside us. Can't come from anywhere else. It's the work of a moment. Stepping back into our own bodies, into our own being. And being. So my proposal is this. anytime you hear that voice in your head that's like, you're not doing enough, you're lazy, look at a tree. See how whole a tree's energy is? And see if you can find that place inside yourself as well. And I would like for us to either decondition the word lazy so that it simply means has the capacity to but is not, or eliminate it. Because back at the beginning of this, when I said go and tell a plant that it's lazy, and you were all like, I can't do that. How about treat yourself and everyone else you know the same way? I can't. I will not. I will not say something with the intention to crush my own or another person's spirit. Not because it's, I think it is bad, but more because I don't see living beings that way, myself included. I'm done. Questions. Ames, what about those tests where all the Slytherin kids insult the plants and all the Hufflepuff kids honor them? And those ones do better. I'm not going to take umbrage at the assumption that it's the Slytherin ones. I have a theory about this, and it's long. Might not be that long. Let's see. Have you all felt the invisible web that connects us all? It's like energy mycelium that flows in between us, each other, plants, rocks, birds, trees, desks, cars, everything that is. The invisible web. The Force. Is that Star Wars? Star Wars. This web of energy that transcends time and space is constantly flowing in between all of us. And it keeps us all connected to the life cycle. Stepping into the life cycle is stepping into this web. Stepping out of the life cycle, you're still a part of the web, but on the other side. This isn't a cosmology lesson. The warp on which we weave, yes. So this is constantly flowing in between all of us. We aren't in the same physical space, but there's so much energy flowing in between us right now. Can you feel it? And There's energy flowing into all of the plants and out of all of the plants. What you are not enough does is, this is very hard to speak about in sort of general terms because we all see energy so differently and interact with it so differently. So I can only explain this from the way I see this in other people. You are not enough is like this hardening that actually rejects the flow into us. It's a shame that looks to me like dark patches in people's energy. Self-hatred is like this black goo, sticky goo. Or not, it's disconnection. Yes. And I feel like, and keep in mind, like, I've not done any research into this, don't know how you would. But when it comes to the plants that wither, when they're told that over and over again, I don't think it is necessarily the words, obviously, but the energy of it, if done repeatedly, it is going to get in the way of that web. It doesn't kill it completely, but it's definitely going to put a, even if it's just in the saying of it, it blocks your own energy into the plant. Caitlin, not enough leads to not worthy of receiving, leads to disconnection. Yes. Which is why, for those of you who are in the Wonder Sessions, the first module is all about receiving. It's protection from fear of what pain connection might bring. It's holding the breath, which isn't sustainable. Orna. Fear of pain, fear of being told not enough or not worthy. When we say it to others and perceive people in the world in this way, we're doing it to ourselves as well. It's like the thought or the energy of the thought itself is a blocking. So it's my theory that I just came up with, because I'd never thought about this before, that it's either like, I mean, I don't know how we can impact another being like that by like putting it on it, but we can very much put it on ourselves and then restrict the flow from us into it. In the same way as when, when we say you're not enough to the plant, it doesn't register, but it bounces back and we feel it in our bodies. So that's my highly scientific theory. Does that make sense? Questions? Comments? Helpful? Reframing at all? Do you think you'll be able to look at laziness differently? Kim, yes, it's like a mirror reflecting back on us, yes. So whether you decide to reclaim lazy for yourself or eliminate it completely is up to you. Amy, this was a lovely interlude in my day and has given me a lot to think about. It was empowering. Well, thank you very much. All right. I told Leah that I would be an hour max. I've been an hour and 5 minutes. So I am going. I hope this was helpful. Tracy, I love your parties. I love them too. I'm excited to do this again next time I have a thought. But yes, thank you all for coming. It is so nice to have you all here and to feel this web of energy flowing back and forth between all of us. So I appreciate it. I appreciate all of you. I'm so grateful for your time and presence. And I hope that you take this into the rest of your day and week and life. And I can't wait to hear about how it goes. Bye.